what I found was the subways. You know, you're standing on the subway, you know, you're riding a T and you got your arm up, and the train sways back and forth. Well, a lot of times accidentally, even if you don't want to, you know you bump into people. Well, I found that I touched a woman once and she didn't turn back, and I was like, to me it was kind of like she liked it, even though reality was she was probably terrified, you know. But in my head I told myself this story that, you know, she was digging it, and I kept touching her very inappropriately, like she was wearing a dress and I was like stuffing my hand in places that it had no business being. I mean, think about that, dude. You're on a T going home from work, you know, and you feel this hand that's, you know, I mean, I was a big kid, so, you know, this is like a regular sized woman, and it had to be like terrifying on some level to her. And for me, it was just about, in my head, the fantasy was she likes it, you know. And in my head, the fantasy was that she would turn and say, "Oh, I love you," blah blah blah, and everything would be fine. Well, reality is totally different than my little twisted fantasy life. I got to a point where I would watch women and see how they carried themselves. Usually had their head down, you know, or were very, like, if they were reading a book, they never really looked up. And to me, that signified that, you know, they were very timid. I go out, I'm like, you know, in all dark clothes. I took a knife from the halfway house, and I was walking. I hung out near a bar. I saw this woman. She was coming out, and I followed her. I walked up behind her, and I said, "Listen, do you know where such and such a place is?" And she was like, "No." And she went to turn, and when she turned, I just grabbed the knife out of my pants and I grabbed it from behind and put it to her neck and showed it to her. I said, "Listen, if you do what you're told, you know, nothing, you won't get hurt." And I pulled her over towards the building, and during the course of the crime, I caught her. She, out of fear, terror, grabbed at the knife, and her hand was cut, and I didn't ejaculate in her. I attempted to penetrate. It was so cold out, you know, forcing her into that spot, her not knowing if she was going to die. You know, here's this big maniac with a knife, and she's got no place to turn. She said, "In order to do that, you're going to have to kill me." And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, yeah, right. You know, all I got to do is put enough fear in her, and, you know, she'll submit. So I started strangling her, and with my other hand, I covered her mouth and her nose so that she couldn't breathe. And I would just do that until I saw the color of her face starting to change. And I'm like, okay, that's enough. That's all I have to do. And I let go, and I'm like, "Are you gonna do what you're told?" And she's gasping for air, dude. And she's like, "No." So I did it again. She's about my age, about 15. I didn't just rape her once, dude. I raped her repeatedly in my head, you know, for years after that. Yeah. I went back to the spot after I got out where I raped her, and I just stood there and kind of cried, because I remembered, you know, everything like it was yesterday, you know, and all I could think was, I wish that, you know, I could go and undo it. And it's sure as shit, I'm standing there and I'm looking at the spot, and I'm like, you know what, you can't ever go back and change it. And I just walked away from that area thinking, you know what, I'll never ever allow myself to get to that place where it's okay for me to hurt another person. Does that change anything from that, for that girl? Probably not. You know, she still has the scar from where I cut her. She still has the memories of what I did to her. Hopefully she was able to go on with her life and have a life, and have a family, you know, and I don't know that, though. I mean, I don't know that everything turned out all right, you know.
So, would it make a difference to you if you knew that?
Yeah, it would.
Because it could be for the worse.
Yeah, it would. It would make a huge difference. Cause, no, it wouldn't. It doesn't take nothing away. We wanted the lighthouse to be the beacon for everybody back at the treatment center. And as you've seen the house, you know, we got like 3 rooms and a parlor, and we got downstairs so we can put beds. And as many beds as we have to put there for the guys back there, we'll put there. And when we can't put no more, then we'll put tents in the yard, you know, and because there's too many people back there who I love and I miss. And I can't forget about them.
Grew up with them. I know them better than I do my own family, because I've been away from my own family so long. And you're right there, you know, I love a lot of those guys there, you know, and they need to be out here, you know, not locked away. They have that day-to-life sentence there, and that's terrible, because that's exactly what it means to someone, that day-to-life, and sometimes they lose that hope of getting out. And I've seen too many people go that route in that place and just give up. About 6-7 years ago, I was trying to take my life, but I got scars up my arm. You know, it's pretty close. It came pretty close. Number one, the location. So it's like I'm not in the hustle and bustle to start out with. So it's like I don't have a ton of people around me. So it's like it's easy to transition that way than being thrown in the middle of the city. You know, there's 1,000 people just going about their thing. They make you feel comfortable here. You know, they make you feel like you are family. You know, I feel like I'm family here. It's like last night, they had a little meal here last night. And before I sat down, it's like I just stood there in front of the table and looked at the table, and I saw everything here that I didn't have, and it just started, you know, putting me near tears. All the food and the settings and all the people around the table and everything, and people can be wonderful. And it was really moving for me. What they've been doing here is awesome. They're great people. I love them, you know, and I consider them family too. You know, it's something I haven't felt in over 20-something years. You know, it was a little overwhelming when I started really thinking, wow, this is home. He was an older neighbor. He was like 5 years older, and I didn't have a lot of friends growing up. I guess I could say we were on the poor side. He took me in basically, you know, and started paying me attention, started playing, you know, playing stickball with me, playing frisbee with me. You know, I felt like I had a friend, and, you know, he started molesting me. And I was scared. I was scared that if I didn't do what he wanted, then I wouldn't have a friend no more. You know, it went on for like, I say a good 2.5 years, and what he'd do is he'd masturbate me, and he forced me to masturbate him. You know, I ran off one day, and just took off from him, and I committed my offenses. That offense probably within 10-15 minutes later. You know, I saw a young girl and young boy down the tracks, and I saw them, and I approached them and everything, and I lured them to a secure, you know, secreted place. The young girl and young boy, I molested them in the same spot I was molested once, same exact spot where I was taken to. I forced the boy to stand aside and pull his pants down, and I first forced the girl to lay down and pull her pants down, you know, and I laid down on top of her, rubbed my penis on the outside of her vagina. At 20, I lured a teen boy into the woods, and I forced him to perform fellatio on me, then I sodomized him.
The other room, and Davey right now sleeping on the couch. We're gonna work something out. We're gonna get a couch that folds out into a cot, and then we'll take this big couch and put it on the other side, so we have you know, another space for somebody else, and hopefully at some point funding will get better, and maybe we're really seriously thinking about we need a bigger house, you know, because Stevie's coming up. He comes up, well, you come up first, and then Stevie comes up in April.
And earlier somebody stopped and they were looking up there and they're like kind of like, you know, looking at everybody, and I'm thinking to myself, well, I wonder if everybody knows.
Oh, and then I'm sure they do by now.
Yeah.
You know who hasn't shown any signs of showing any recognition toward me anyways? He's
Mark.
Mark. I mean, I've seen him out there a few times and he's just gone about his business.
Me and the guys that are here, her concern was bringing in more people. I'm like, listen, you know what? My wife lives in that house. Do you think I'm going to bring anybody knowingly into that house that's going to do anything that's going to hurt her? You know what I mean? So tried assuring her. I'm like, listen, you know, all I can tell you is that I'm not going to do anything that's going to hurt anybody in this area. You know, this is my home. You know, you don't shit in your yard.
And I mean, he was never overly friendly, but if he was out in the yard, I mean, he'd say hi, or if they walked by, he'd say hi or something. Now he just kind of goes about his business and doesn't bother, so. That's his choice. That's what he wants to do. That's fine with me. I'll sleep the same way as I always do.
Can you believe this? Can't either. Can't either. You're serious.
You know, the floor's a long way down, ain't it? Especially when it's 6'3.5".
Ah, yeah, I guess.
The other night I'm driving home. I see two people hitchhiking on the road. I stopped. So I pull over, it's two girls. They get in the van. Now I don't think nothing of it, but as I'm driving I'm thinking, you know what, 20 years ago, you know, I know where my head would have been with this. You know, I'd have been in offending mode. You know, all I'm trying to do is give two people a ride, you know, and they're like, thank you, it was so cold, nobody was stopping. You know, and they're both women, and nobody would stop for them. And it's like, you know, they're walking down freaking Route 11, you know, where they could get hit or run down or anything, and it's like nobody will take the time. You know, so it's like when you're back in situations that for me in the past would have been bad situations, and I'm handling them appropriately, I know.
I know.
You know, I know. You know.
What if these girls find out you're a sex offender? You know.
How are they gonna find out?
Oh, and this all comes out, and they say, "My God, he gave me a ride."
Yeah, and what's your point?
They could accuse you.
They could accuse you of something.
Yeah, so couldn't you? So couldn't Michelle? So couldn't Doe? So couldn't
Why would
Elizabeth?
you put yourself into that situation?
What am I supposed to do? Hide inside of a piece of metal for the rest of my life?
I thought that's exactly what you were going to ask when you girls. Well,
Way back downstairs to get the ticket out.
oh, did they? You were supposed to say it. Imagine that. But, you know.
Caution. The moving walk is nearing its end. Please attend to